Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our channel after a long time. And today we are going to understand the actuator in the Spring Boot. Okay, so firstly, let's understand what is the actuator. Then, what we will do, we will create a simple REST API. Okay, after creating the REST API, what we will do, we will apply the actuator on that. But what is the actuator? So, this is my website. Okay, you can read the article here regarding the Spring Boot actuator. So, Spring Boot actuator is a sub-project, okay, of Spring Boot that provides set of production ready feature to help you to monitor and manage your application. Okay, now what kind of endpoint actuator provide? See, what happens is that to use the actuator we have to add the dependency Spring Boot starter actuator inside our application, right? Now, after adding that application, what it will do, it will provide us few inbuilt URL, okay, to check the health of the application, where whether our application, our API is running or not, okay. So we have the health endpoint, we have the information endpoint. The info endpoint will provide the information about our application. We have the beans endpoint, okay. The beans endpoint will provide the list of all the beans, okay, which are defined in our application context. Okay, so like there are different endpoint, okay, which it is providing internally, okay, and we can use those endpoint to get the information of our application. Okay, like for example, if you visit the endpoint called health, it will give the status as the up if the application is running fine. Okay, so to get this kind of information we have to add the feature of the actuator inside our project. So let's do it step by step. Okay, so let me open the spring tool suite. Okay, so firstly what we are going to do is that we will create a simple REST API by using Spring Boot. Okay, this REST API will return the welcome message, file new. Okay, file new project Spring Boot. Select the Spring Starter project. Next, here giving name as the welcome, or we can select that welcome API only man. Okay, welcome API. Here I want to use the Maven. Okay, Java 17 and project for the welcome API. Welcome API. Next, now we want to add the dependency called the Spring Web here. Okay, finish. We have to add it Spring Web. Now application is now created successfully. But when the application is created, it will create only one file, which is the main file from where the application execution will start. Okay. And apart from that, we got the POM file, which contain dependencies. Okay. And we got the application.property file. So this welcome file, okay, with the main method. From this, the execution of the application will start. Let's start the application. Run as Java application. By default, it will start on port number 8080. If you want to change the port number, what you can do, just go to application.property file. Here, type server.port. And if I want to start the application on 8082, Control S. Okay. So initially, by default, application started on the port number 8080, right? Let me stop it now. Now what I done is that I modified the port number as the 8082. Now if I run the application again, now you can check here the application Tomcat started on the 8082 now, right? Initially it was 8080. So remember one point, the default port is the 8080, which you can modify. This is the main file, okay? Now we want to create the controller here. Create a class. Let's give the name as welcome controller. Welcome controller. Finish. Here we are going to create the REST API, right? So we have to give the annotation called REST controller here. Control Shift O. O should be small. Controller. Control Shift O. Control Shift O. If you press on the keyboard, it will import the annotation, right? Now public string. Now we want to return some message, right? So return welcome message. Welcome message. Okay. Return here. Hey, welcome to technical. Let me do one thing, man. Let me go to the browser and let me copy the URL of my channel. Control C, just name. Okay. Welcome to technical learning for all YouTube channel. Control S. Now here we have to give the endpoint also. Okay. Endpoint with the annotation get mapping, because we want to get the message, right? So go for the get mapping message. This is the name of the endpoint. Okay. MSG. So our application will run on the port number 808, no, 8082. Okay. Now, and in this application we have one endpoint called message, MSG. This MSG endpoint is going to return this welcome message. Fine. Let's start the application now. Run as Java application. Failed to start. 8082 was already in use. Where, man? We forgot to stop it, right? So let's terminate it. After termination, let's run the application again. Application started on port number 8082. In this application, we have to access the endpoint message. Okay. So, and this application is running on my local host, right? So go to the Postman tool. Inside the Postman tool, okay, localhost 8080 MSG. Type the endpoint MSG here, okay. See, this is the endpoint MSG, right? And port number is what? This is the 8082 for our application. So 8082 port. On localhost, on port number 8082, I want to read this endpoint message. Okay. And the method type, if you check here for message endpoint, right? Message endpoint, this is the method, right? The method type is what? Get mapping here, right? So for a get mapping, we have to pass the get, correct? Get from here, get mapping. So send the request now. See, we got it. We got, hey, welcome to technical learning for all YouTube channel. In real time, what will happen, Java programmer will create the REST API like this, basic REST API, okay? And Angular programmer will call the endpoint of our API, okay? And then after calling the endpoint of our API, Angular programmer will get some information like message or some list based on the requirement, right? And then Angular programmer will display that information on the UI. So they will write the code in the Angular, okay, to display this data on the user interface. So fine, our API is now successfully created. Now let us do one thing. Now if I want the additional information about this API. Okay, when it is running, right? Now the API is running. I want the additional information, right? So let's try to get it first. Let's go to the browser, actuator info 8082. Okay, our application is running on the port number 8082. See, at this time, white error page. Okay, you have to remember this. Okay, we are like the application is running now. Okay, and we are calling the endpoint info, or we are calling the endpoint health. I want to check the health of my application. Okay, but it is not giving anything, right? So now if I want to give this information, what I have to do, we have to add the dependency here. First step. Now you can just go to my blog also. Okay, this is my blog. See what is the steps are given. First step is what? Add the below dependency in the pom.xml file. Simply copy the dependency from here. I'm going to my pom file. Hmm? Here I'm pasting the dependency. Spring Boot starter actuator. Either you can add from there or you can add from here also. Okay, just do right click on the dependency, this pom file, go to Spring, click on the add starter. Okay, and then what you can do is that you can just search for actuator here, Spring Boot actuator, right? Just select this one, click on the next, select the pom file, click on the finish. So both ways are okay. So our dependency is now added here, Spring Boot starter actuator. So only adding dependency is not sufficient. If you just stop the application and run again, okay, by default health will be available, I think. Yeah, see, by default health will be available. Okay, but if you check the info here now, see, we got the error page. Info is not enabled, right? Only by default health endpoint is the up, and it is giving the status as the up. The meaning is what? The application is now running, the application is now up. Just imagine if I stop the application, okay, and if I refresh it, I stop the application, I refresh that, see it gone, right? If I again start the application, okay, and then see it is automatically refreshed and we got it, right? We got up here. So see, our actuator is now working, okay, and by default health endpoint is enabled. But we need more endpoint main, okay? I need the info also. So two property we have to add: management.endpoint.web.exposure. Okay, let me copy both. Okay, let me just copy it. I will explain step by step. Go to your property file, just paste it. Management endpoint web.exposure include. If you want to enable all the endpoint, this is not recommended for production. Okay, so then add star. But if you don't want to enable all the endpoint, you can just type the name here. Okay, info I want to enable. Okay, and I want to enable health here by default, and fine. Okay, control S. Now if I go to the endpoint and if I just start the application again here, and if I try to check the info now, okay, in the browser, if I try to get the info, it will give us the empty curly brace. We got it, right? We got the empty curly brace. Why? Because we are not providing any information as of now. If we try to access the mappings now, MAPPING mapping, so we got white label error page. So to access the mapping also, Control C, just go to your property file here, add comma mapping, info health mapping. Stop the application. Start the application again, refresh it, mappings. Restart again, mappings. See, we got it right. Exposing three endpoint, okay, from the actuator. Why we got three endpoint here? Because we added info, health, mappings, right? So let's go to browser and refresh it, man. See, we got it. Pretty print. So what mapping will do? Let me do one thing. Let me search for the message. So see, it will give the in detail information about the application, right? Like mapping. Like there is the mapping for the URL called MSG. It is the get mapping. Okay. This is the internal handler. This is the controller name. Okay. So these things are not recommended in production. Okay. So in production, you must take care. Okay. You should not add these properties. Okay. All property, and in the production environment, okay, avoid to add star also. If you add star here, star means what? It will expose all the endpoint. Okay, let me add star here and let me refresh it, right? Let me run the application again. Now what I done, I removed all the property and added only star here. Okay, let me stop it and run again. Go to the browser. Just because we added the star, mappings also visible here. Pretty print, this is the plugin in the browser to print the JSON in the proper format. Okay, then bins, if you go for bins here, see, it is exposing all the bins. Okay, whatever bins are created internally by the Spring Boot, right? It will expose everything, man. Then if you go for now here, health, health also it is showing. Okay, so this thing you must note down. Okay, in the production level, never enable this one, never add star here. Okay, as per requirement, you can simply add health kind of thing. Okay, health. Stop the application, run the application again. As we have enabled only health endpoint, right? Just go to console, check here, exposing one endpoint beneath base path is the actuator. So for the actuator now it is exposing only one endpoint, right? So just refresh the health. Now we got it, right? Now if you try to access the beans here, so beans are not accessible now. Okay, now if you try to access the mappings here, it is giving the error page. Fine, you have to read the log carefully. Exposing one endpoint just because we have added only health here. If we add here star, stop the application and run the application again, so it is exposing near about uh, 14 endpoint. Okay, so I hope you got it now. Fine. Now just imagine if you want to display health and information, right? So for information, we have to add this thing management.info.env.enabled is equal to true. After this, env, sorry, info, okay, dot app dot name. Okay, if you want to use any other thing here, welcome API, then info dot app dot description, API for client, whatever the name, ABC, info dot app dot version. Okay, version 0.1 is the version. Control S. So we enabled the info environment here, right? We added this property. Because of this, whatever property we are giving here, which are starting from the info, right? Now, if you just stop the application and run the application again, okay, go to your browser and try to access the info now. Info here. You will see the information here, okay? Info. Let me just refresh it. Info.app.name, info.app.description, info.app.version. Management.info.env.enable is equal to true. Build path, configure build path. Maybe it is excluding the property file. This is the issue in the in the ID, man. I don't know why it is coming that, but it is like adding star here a lot of time. So you must take care of this thing, okay? SRC main resources, it should not be star here. Apply, apply and close. It was excluding the property file. I don't know, but this is the issue with the IDE. So let's run the application again. Now, whatever information properties are here, right? Info properties, it will provide this property for the info endpoint. Go to the browser here, try to access the info. Why it is not showing, man? Info 0.1. It must show. Exposing one endpoint. Yeah, I got it, man. See, man, it is very smart, bro. Okay. So it is exposing only one endpoint. Why? Because we are exposing only health, right? So we have to expose the info also in the production level. Okay. Control S. Even though we enable the info here, but we are not exposing that, right? That's why it was not giving. So let me do one thing. Run the application again. Run as Java application. Now see, it is exposing two endpoint. One is the health, okay, and one is the info here. Now if you go to the browser, just refresh it. We got it, man. Correct. App.name welcome API. Description is the API for client ABC. Version is the 0.1. So if you enabled this info env enable is equal to true, right? It will give the properties which are starting with the info dot, okay, with the value. I hope you got it. This is what actuator is, okay? Simple fundament. For enabling actuator, we are adding the dependency Spring Boot starter actuator. Then what we are doing is that management.endpoint.web exposure include how many endpoint you want to enable, all or only two or three, okay, as per your production requirement. You have to add those here. If you want to enable all, then give a star, okay. And if you want to provide the additional information also to client, okay, via the info endpoint, you can enable the info env enabled is equal to true here, okay, and then give those properties starting with the info dot, then anything, okay, either app or you can exclude the app also. You can give info dot name, info dot description, info dot version, whatever you want, okay, and then you can access this information in the production. You got it? So now only info and health is up for us. If you try to get the bins now, bins are not available for us, right? Because we disabled that from the backend. So this is what actuator is. All content is available inside my article on crtr4u.com. Just visit this website and read the article, in-depth article. Follow it step by step. I have given the property here with star. I have given the actuator dependency also. I have given the few endpoint also, mappings, beans, health, okay. And I have given few additional thing also here, right? You can enable only health and info, right? Like this. So if you think that you are getting the informative content on this channel. Okay, please like, share, and subscribe. Technical learning for all. And one more thing is that thanks a lot for huge response, okay, for this one video. The network adapter could not establish the connection. Okay, so I'm very happy, man.
Be able to connect.
After reading all this comment, okay, on this video, I'm very happy. So thanks a lot, man. Okay, if you need any help, please comment below. I will try my best to help you on weekend if possible. Okay, and if you feel it is really useful for you, then subscribe my channel and support. Thanks a lot, and bye bye.